I feel like I've been walking up and down these stairs forever, or for an infinite amount of time. Infinity is something that MC Escher was focused on, and he actually made staircases of infinity. We're going to be looking at that work of art. Let's get started. Those stairwells had me going in circles. I couldn't find the top, and I couldn't find the bottom. MC Escher makes artwork of stairwells that are infinite or have infinity, which means they keep on going and 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 going. He also uses something called tessellations. We're going to be talking about tessellations today in our warm-up, but before we get started, let's talk a little bit about MC Escher. MC Escher was a Dutch artist born in 1898. Now, he loved art and he loved mathematics. He was a graphic artist, and what he did is he looked at tiles and repeating shapes. We also looked at him last time in terms of negative and positive space. Today we're going to do one more project with negative and positive space. So before we get started, let's go ahead and let's look at doing a tessellation practice. So what does that word tessellation mean? So what does that word tessellation mean? Tessellation means taking a shape or a pattern and repeating it over and over again, but not leaving space in between it. You can see with tessellation that their shapes are all kind of interlocked together. So let's go ahead and let's do a practice on tessellation. We're going to start a very easy one as a warm-up today. Let's get to my drawing desk. For this part of the project, you're going to need 2 pieces of paper, a pencil, maybe a ruler, and some scissors. The first thing I'm going to do is on my paper here, I'm going to make an arrow. Now, to make an arrow, all you need to do is make a triangle and try to keep this triangle symmetrical, which means the same on both sides, so I don't have one angle too far from the other. And then I am going to go ahead and make like a rectangle coming out of my triangle. Okay, this looks like it's a little bit longer on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Okay, my next step is going to be cutting out my arrow. So I'm going to cut along the side. I'm not going inside of it. Carefully cutting slowly. I move the paper around quite a bit. It helps get some of the different angles. All right. And voila. Now I have an arrow. What I'm going to do with this arrow is I'm going to put it on this paper and trace. Just really quickly before we get moving, look, I have an arrow that is positive space, and now I have an arrow that's made out of negative space. We're going to be using this again today, this negative, positive space words, so it's important to know them. All right, let's move on to the arrow. So what I'm going to do in the top corner is I'm just going to trace around my arrow. I'm holding it in one spot. I'm not sliding my fingers around. Whoops, see, I slipped. So I'm going to put it right back. Try to get it exact if you can. Then I'm going to put another arrow down here, touching the corner of this top arrow. So you really want to keep them close together. Remember, we talked about tessellation, having repeating shapes, and no space is wasted. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my arrow, it fits perfectly into there. And I'm going to go ahead and put my arrow right in the middle there. Now, I'm going to continue going down my paper, and then I'm going to continue going down here, but I'm going to do that part in fast forward. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my arrow back in those spaces in between, and I'm going to make some more arrows. Try to get them right in the middle there. And what you can start to see is that I have arrows going both directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill my paper there. Then I can go ahead and color in one row with one color, another row with another color, and I can keep rotating back and forth. And this is tessellation. Now let's move into negative and positive space. Let's go over a quick review on negative and positive space. I've cut out an organic shape just really quickly, and we're going to use this to help us talk about negative and positive shapes. So, if I hold my object up, I can see the negative space could be the white, or I can switch it to the black. Now, if I change the color of the black, my negative or positive space could switch. It depends on what you see first. That usually is the positive space, the main subject. That usually takes the idea of being the positive, and everything kind of around it becomes the negative. Now, you can have a balance of positive and negative space, or you can have an imbalance, which means you can use a lot of negative space and a little bit of positive space, or the opposite of that. Today, we're going to try to make a project that has a little bit more of a balance between the negative and positive space. We're going to have kind of a radial design. So let's go back to my drawing desk and let's start our final project for today. For our final assignment on negative and positive space, you're going to need 2 sheets of paper. You're definitely going to need your scissors again. You might want to use a marker if you have one. If not, a pencil's fine. And then I want you to use something you can color with. I'm going to use a crayon with no wrapper on it, because I'm going to use a rub. I'm going to use the side of the crayon so I can speed things up. You don't have to. You can color it in whatever way you want. For this first sheet of paper, I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half once, like a book. Fold it in half twice. And the reason why is when I open it, I have 4 rectangles. I'm going to go ahead and cut one of those rectangles out. Save the piece of paper because you can always make more negative and positive space projects with it. And I have this very small rectangle that goes in the middle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out designs on each side of my shape, okay? So before I do that though, I want to move in and I want to color this. So I'm just going to use my crayon and do a texture rub. We talked about you can use whatever you want, a marker, colored pencil. I'm just using a crayon, just really fast so that you can see the rest of this project. And voila, good enough. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna go ahead and cut some designs. Out and save the pieces to the side. Think about like organic, geometric shapes. We've talked about a lot about those this year. Those would be good to use right now. And let's see. The more creative, the more fun it will be in the end. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this in the very middle of my paper, okay? The next step after I glue this is I'm going to find the pieces and figure out where they went. So I think, nope, that went right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it facing the other way. Instead of putting it right there, I'm going to glue it right like that. Instead of gluing it inside there, I'm going to glue this piece coming out right like that. This piece looks like it goes right there. So instead of putting this piece in there, I'm going to glue it right there. And instead of having this piece go into right there, I'm going to put it right like that. Okay? So now I have these designs coming out. It's like a radial design, meaning a design that's going out, around, and out. And my negative space is the paper below. My positive space are these cutout shapes, but I have this really cool negative positive space design that MC Escher was really famous for doing. So take your time. I want to see how creative you can be with these particular designs, try your hardest to be the smartest artist. Don't forget our tessellation project and our negative and positive space project. Please submit both of those and show me your progress. All right, 2nd and 3rd grade, cannot wait to see your work. Until next time, stay safe and stay creative.